Welcome back to the show. As always, I'm Chad Burdett, and today we are going to be talking about a uh, crowdfunding Kickstarter, Kolchak Meets Classic Monsters. It's a project by James Zach Malone, who's been on the show multiple times, and um, he's doing this. And one of the contributors is our friend Steve Niles, who is back to chat with us about his contributions. So, hey,
Hello.
Steve, how's it going?
It's going good. It's going good.
Last time you were on, Jim was with us, and you guys were talking Scab.
Yeah, that we got that finished. It came out, and yeah, it came out really nice too.
Nice. Glad to hear that. So before we get started, and like I said, you've been here before, but just kind of give us a overview of your history as a comic book reader and creator.
Well, I am a lifetime comic reader. I've been reading comics since I was a little kid with horror and superheroes. When I was about 19, 20, I started my own publishing company and called Arcane, and that sort of got me into comics. I worked with guys like Clive Barker and Richard Matheson, and I got to adapt some of their stuff. And then, actually, much later, in my 30s, I wrote 30 Days of Night, and that's when my
I think
real
I've heard
career.
about it before.
Yeah, maybe somewhere. Yeah, but that's for all I worked in comics for over 20 years before 30 Days a Night came out. But it
hmm
was really most people view, my career started at 30 Days a Night.
So, tell us a little bit about the project, and for those who might not know who Kolchak is,
Yeah.
um, kind of give us some background on that, if you don't mind.
Well, Kolchak is this monster hunter, for lack of a better term, that was created in the 70s by Jeff Rice. I was introduced to it not by the books, though. I was introduced to it by the TV movies. There was the Night Stalker and the Night Strangler, which were both written by Richard Matheson, who I just adore. And it's about this reporter who constantly sticks his nose where he shouldn't stick it and winds up uncovering all kinds of horrible monsters and supernatural events.
And so, it's for a three issue. The Kickstarter is for three issues. Are you? Um, are you? I assume that you're doing one of the issues. I mean,
Yeah. I'm doing, actually, this is really great because James approached me and said, he's doing Kolchak meets the monsters, basically. Frankenstein, Dracula, and the werewolf. So I immediately was like, please, Frankenstein, can I have Frankenstein? And I think that's he had already planned on it because I've written Frankenstein stories a lot, but to do it with Kolchak added sort of a new thing. It's set in the 70s. It's got its quirkiness to it. So yeah, so I wrote the Kolchak Frankenstein, and I'm in really good company because there's two other books that have been announced, and they're being written by David Dastmalchian and Rodney Barnes. So the three of us are doing the three issues.
so what is your you mentioned that you were glad you got Frankenstein. What is your you know history with the Frankenstein's monster, and why is it a character that kind of appeals to you as a creator?
It's always Frankenstein, the monster has always appealed to me because he's sympathetic. I love the sympathetic monsters. Creature from the Black Lagoon, King Kong, Frankenstein's monster. Um, he appeals to me because, he's not your traditional monster. In a lot of ways, he's an abandoned child who has powers beyond his control.
Mhm.
So it's always really appealed to me. I've always, I actually, a big part of why I love Frankenstein so much is Bernie Wrightson. Bernie Wrightson did a fabulous illustrated Frankenstein that has stuck with me my entire life. And a few years before Bernie passed away, we did a book called Frankenstein Alive Alive, which was Bernie's idea for a sequel to the novel, to the original novel.
Hmm.
I have a character, Cal McDonald, that I've done. Frankenstein has appeared in there. It's just it's a character that I constantly come back to. And like I said, this was a unique chance to do it because these aren't they're not the movie monsters necessarily. I based mine a lot more on the novel as far as his appearance and his articulation. He's an articulate monster in my story.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So, kind of give us the basics of the story that you're working on for this collection.
Well, I won't give away too much, but
Please don't.
but it opens with some doctors trying to steal a body, and that's never good. So they are intercepted by a creature, and it turns out that the creature intercepting them is the Frankenstein monster,
Mhm.
and that's the crime scene that Kolchak has to figure out. They come and there's smashed cars, there's bodies in the road, and he starts his investigation. And I feel okay with that. You can actually see a preview of those pages on the Kickstarter.
And who are you working with? On the issue besides yourself.
George Vadros is the artist, interior artist. He's doing a fantastic job. And Russ Braun did the cover. Who I've always loved Russ's work, so it's great to work with him. So it's a really nice package. It came together really well.
Now, did James approach you about working on the project, or how
Yeah,
did how had you known? Have you kind of known him from other projects, or?
yeah. I did another. It's funny because I did a short 8-page Kolchak Frankenstein story for his anthology that he did.
Mhm.
I did that with Simon Kudransky, and just it's once again I love working with Frankenstein. So there you go. And I think James knows it. So he contacted me right away when he was doing this project.
So, is there anything? I mean, although it's not your first kind of time doing Frankenstein, is there something that you hope to bring to the character or Kolchak, with this through this project, through your part of the project?
It's a much more again, I don't want to give too much away, but his Kolchak's reaction is not his typical. Because his typical reaction is, okay, there's a monster, how do I kill it? And with this one,
Mhm.
because it's an articulate monster, he has to reason and come up with something other than killing them.
So, are these the is this connected to the two other stories, or is it kind of a separate story in and of itself?
They're all separate. They're all completely
Okay.
separate. Yeah, mine takes place in 73, I believe. And I believe the others take place at different times. I think David's story takes place a little later because he's using his character in there as well.
Hmm.
Count Crowley. Sorry, David's character,
Yep.
Count Crowley.
So, did you for the project? Did you interact with Rodney or David?
It's funny. I've worked with David before. He and I did a Cal McDonald Count Crowley crossover one shot. And he was fantastic to work with. David is a longtime fan, and he used to come by my table, and he's just somebody that's been around for a long time, and now he's just he's skyrocketed. He's doing all these great movies and stuff. Um, but he's just this great down to earth guy. So we actually wrote sort of hot potato style. I wrote 5 pages and tossed it to him, and he wrote 5 pages and tossed it back. We had this script, the crossover, done in a little over a week
Hmm.
with the
Okay.
writing because he's so I've worked with him before, and I am currently working on something with Rodney that hasn't been announced yet.
Okay. I know that Rodney's been busy with a lot of uh, playing in the Star Wars universe lately.
Yeah, and he's got a Batman coming out, I think next week.
No, I think the first issue of Full Moon was out last week, and it's
Oh, it
with
was last week.
Steven Stubek, or I can't pronounce. I
I,
don't know if I pronounce this.
not sure.
I don't know if I pronounce his name right, but I always butcher names. But so
I always do too. It's okay. It's because you never say them. You read these names, and then you've got to say them all of a sudden, and it's like, oh,
yeah, I write them or type them, and then when it comes to having to say them, it's I always I just mispronounce stuff in general.
yeah.
Um, so writing this story in particular, did you learn anything new or kind of
Well,
um,
I don't know if I learned anything new, but you know what? I wrote a version that was, I think, a little stiff. Um, a lot of the characters were just straight characters, and then I thought, like, I'm going to loosen up a little bit, bring a little more from movies and the books, and there's so much Frankenstein stuff. So I added a familiar character that another familiar character that people will recognize, but it's not in the preview, so I can't say.
yeah, no, I definitely don't want you to give anything away that might
Yeah,
spoil. Um, so how long did it take you, to is the story finished?
yeah,
Is it ready to go?
yeah. As soon as James invited me, I started writing. I wrote a pretty detailed outline first. I submitted, like a one liner or so to James just to make sure it was cool. And then I dove into the scripting. So I got the script done in about 2 weeks. Uh,
And
wasn't,
did he, like, pretty much let you
uh,
run by yourself?
James is great. No, he's really fun to work with. He's really enthusiastic. I sent him the script and he was like, "This is great. Love it." I was like, wow, that's my kind of editor. So
Yeah. So, and this is, am I correct that this is your second time that you've worked with Kolchak? Is there any other Kolchak stories that you might want to tell, down the line, be it with James or,
I love the character. I could see doing more because I really do love the character. And it's so funny because I mean, I already write a monster hunter, Cal McDonald, but
Mhm.
he's hard boiled, takes drugs. He's just he kills everything that he gets his hands on. It's a much different thing. Kolchak is much more civil. He's a reporter. He's after the story. Not he doesn't want to be a monster hunter. He wants to be a writer.
Right.
So it's a totally different approach, totally different character. Yeah, if I got the opportunity to do more, I definitely would.
Yeah. So I don't know if you have it in front of you. What is being offered for the campaign to,
Oh,
for.
I don't have it in front of me, but I did look at it this morning, and I know there's
Mhm.
all kinds of bonuses. They've got these really cool silver coins, which I actually want to ask James how I can get one. But
I don't
they've
know.
got
Maybe if you do some work on the uh, project, maybe he'll give you one just to.
maybe I'll get a coin. But they got original. They're selling the original covers. They're offering those up. All kinds of bonuses. So I think it launched yesterday and it's already doing really good.
Yeah, it looks like it. So kind of moving away from this one, if it, tell us, how did you said the scab was, you guys are finished with that.
Yeah.
Any chance of doing anything more with that, or are you going to kind of let it marinate and see what comes of it?
I don't know if I want to do more scab. Well, the way it ends, um, there really can't be a sequel, so
Okay.
it would have to be a prequel, which prequels drive me nuts, frankly. But Jim and I have been talking, and I really want to work with. We want to work together again. It's been
Mhm.
decades, since we've actually done writing and art together. So we're trying to think of something. We're trying to think of something that we can work
I know, Jim's a good guy, and he's been very supportive, and I've known him since becoming more ensconced in the local comic scene here in upstate New York. So,
on. Yeah. It's a good scene up there. I mean, you have conventions up there and stuff that I've been trying to get to.
yeah, I mean, there's the one that's twice a year. So, and that's probably the biggest one here in Albany. But I mean, it's a nice one. I mean, it's a mixture of you know people who are indie creators, and also he's able to get you know bigger names like Ron Mars, Steve Orlando, and stuff like that.
Right. Right. Yeah, I'm working with Ron Mars on a Kickstarter as well.
Well,
Uh,
maybe I'm sure that sounds like a fun interview. Maybe we can get both of you on here sometime to whenever
that'd
you
be
guys
so
are ready
fun.
to.
Yeah, Ron and I both have the Bernie Wrightson connection. He worked with
Mhm.
Bernie a lot and has been friends with him forever. I love Ron. I'd love to do that.
Well, is there anything else that you wanted to mention about the campaign from your side of the project?
Well, I really hope people will check it out. I mean, like I said, it's going really well, but with the other two writers, and it's Kolchak and Monsters. I mean, it's such a fun project. I really hope people will check it out.
And are you currently reading anything that you're really enjoying or think
You know
people
what? I
need to
haven't
be
been to
aware
a
of?
comic. I live in the middle of nowhere, so getting to a comic store is really hard. But I did just order what's it called? Charles Burns' new book, and of course I can't Final Cut, which I started reading, and it's just he kills me. Charles Burns is just one of my favorites.
Yeah.
So I'm reading that. Mostly, I've been watching movies. There's a lot of new horror out. So I just watched Mike Flanagan's Hush, which I guess is from 2016. It just came out. And then we just watched this great one called Oddity, which if you get
Hmm.
a chance to see it, check it out.
Okay.
It's a nice sort of. It's about a psychic who gets revenge,
Hmm.
but it's just totally off the wall. I think you'd love it.
Yeah, I mean, horror movies usually aren't my well. Getting to a movie these days with a young kid is kind of hard anyway. But,
Yeah,
or when you want to watch something at home, it's like, okay, do we really need to watch Inside Out again? I
yeah.
mean, it's a great movie, but
How
he's
old?
8.
Oh,
He's
eight.
8, but he enjoys Inside Out and Inside Out too. So
Yeah, I
but
wouldn't recommend streaming either of those movies with an 8-year-old around.
but I do love I do enjoy listening to Stephen King's short stories, and
Yeah,
a lot of them have that horror kind of
yeah,
twist to them. So
yeah. Very cool.
where can people find more about you or updates on what you're working on?
Well, Facebook is always good. I'm pretty active on there. Somewhat. I make sure I keep things up to date on Twitter, but that place has become a hellhole. So
Yep.
I'm not on there too much. And then Instagram,
Hmm.
and I'm trying Blue Sky.
Hmm.
It's been pretty quiet so far, but I post all my stuff there. But Facebook's really the best, and it's public, so anybody can come by and see it. Uh, you know,
Well, that sounds great, and I want to thank you for taking the time out of your day to chat about your contribution to this Kickstarter. And we'll definitely when you and Ron start working or start um, doing whatever you need to do, I would love to have you both on here to you know
yeah,
pick your brains about the project and just the interactions there with Ron is
yeah,
always a good interview. So, and you are
exactly.
too. I mean, so it'll be a great interview.
Yeah, that sounds great. Thank you so much. Thanks for
All
letting
right.
me on.
Well, thanks again, and we'll be in touch.
All right. Good luck at the con.
All right. Bye.
Okay. Bye bye.